Stuart, welcome back. It's been a while. We missed you, love. Where have you been? Hey,
I, des-
come
I
on.
decided I decided to investigate Europe, and now I got crutches.
Yeah, this is it. After 2 whole weeks, Stuart's back in the studio, folks. It's great to have you back, Stuart. Welcome back and bon appetit, sir. I know you got to eat too. I'm sure your body's still trying to adjust from life on the road. So, Stuart, while you've been away, the crazy thing is that this thing called COVID seems to have reemerged. And it's comical because when you look at, you know, where we came from 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, like think about it, it was March of 2020 to today. We claim to know more. We think we know more. We think we're better at it. But boy, oh boy, not only is COVID here, it seems to be to stay, but what's disappeared is where are the politicians and the media gone, Stuart? Once upon a time, if there were, they announced yesterday there are 4,000 new hospitalized, people in the intensive care. There are 38,000 people hospitalized in the United States on COVID. In Canada alone, that number is also growing up. Just pulling this up, the numbers in Canada that we've actually have over almost 5,000 people hospitalized, 300 in intensive care. In Quebec alone, that number is at 2,000, and that number used to sound off massive alarm bells. People would go nuts. We'd have press conferences. We'd have warnings. We wouldn't have shutdowns like, all the time, but if we go back to the last time we had this many hospitalizations in Canada, I was sitting at home locked down, but not now. Stuart, what do you think is the reason why it seems that COVID doesn't seem to have that same fear as it did before?
Money, greed, politics, control. There's something funny that happens every so often. It's called an election. And you know what? You know what people like more than you know lockdowns is they like to remain in the power. And I think that we're probably going to get shut down for this one, but this whole concept is, wear masks, don't wear masks, wear masks, don't wear masks, lock down, don't lock down. Let's lock down again because it didn't work the first time. So try again. Right now in Broward County in Florida, there are 29,936 cases with 103 deaths from July 13th to July 26th. That's Miami-Dade, by the way. Sorry. Broward is 13,621 with 63 deaths in the same time period. But what they're not saying is that, a lot of these deaths are attributed to very old, very elderly. And are those numbers in line with the regular influenzas, right? Or is this a complication thereof? So if you died of a heart attack, but you tested positive with COVID, well, you can test positive for COVID up to 6 months after you've had it. So I really don't know. When I was in Europe, everyone's walking around free as a bird. The boats, if they don't want to give you something, they tell you, oh, it's against the CDC. Well, if they don't want to provide a service, oh, it's because of COVID. You know, Planes. So remember how much cleanliness rolled into all this, David? Wash your hands is the number one factor on preventing the spread of COVID. Remember that washing your hands, simple
Yep.
things, soap, water.
Yep.
So, on the airplane that I got on that returned from Barcelona to South Florida, I had to ask for some wipes because my tray table, my wife's tray table, all the three tray tables, even the girl sitting next to me, they were all filthy. They didn't bother to clean it. So it's kind of like the concept of hygiene has gone out the window. And the concept of any normal science out the window because it's an anti-power grab. Like, hey, if you do this,
Oh,
there's no issue. So let's make the numbers get bigger so we can get more control. Let's not promote cleaning, washing, the normal stuff.
Stuart, I'll take your point a little bit further than that, and it's just comical how we saw up until what about I don't know how long, 6 months ago, the media vilified the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, Texas. Why? Because they didn't push for vaccines or mask mandates. Because California and New York led the country with the intelligentsia and the right way to do it. And here we are. And if you look at the numbers, New York and California aren't so hot stuff.
No, they
Florida
have
and
higher.
Texas,
They're higher per capita by
you know,
far.
so the problem I have is that, all of a sudden the media went quiet because what they said you should
Narrative.
do and what really
Narrative.
happened exactly went out the window. Mr.
Yep.
Biden ran on a campaign of vaccinating the entire country, right?
The
I
world.
mean,
The
the
world.
world.
The world.
Well,
The
forget the
world.
world, forget the world. Let's just stick to, the United States and what have you, and didn't succeed. We heard about herd immunity. There was no herd immunity. We've
Nope.
heard of a lot of these things. Now, listen, I know science is evolving, it's moving target at times and whatever, and this was brand new and nobody really kind of knew. But we were told with absolute certainty, if you remember at the beginning, wash the cans, wash your packages from Amazon, wash the fruits and vegetables you're getting because they could spread COVID. That turned out to be false. We had a lot of false information that was talked to us, was presented to us by the politicians as gospel. And now here we are, 2 years later, we're not talking about this. One thing that's fascinating is you remember when you used to walk into a store, forget about putting on a mask. There used to be a bottle of Purell at the front of the store. And I don't know
Yep.
if this was like that in a lot of places, but a lot of places here, you had to have a bottle of Purell or whatever knockoff you
Hand
had,
sanitizer.
hand
Hand sanitizer.
sanitizer, thank you. And
Yep.
you had to wash your hands. You couldn't walk in. There was a guard. I remember walking into stores. There was a person standing. Look, I play hockey. And there was a guy standing at the front of the arena holding a bottle, spritzing people's hands to make sure that they wash their hands, show that their vaccine card, blah, 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 blah. None of that's there anymore. I'm not saying we should do it anymore, but what did they tell us is that basic hygiene was critical. So you said you went on an airplane and they're not cleaning it. Hotel rooms, I don't know. I was stayed at a hotel. They don't come and clean. They don't clean it like they used to because they're claiming it's now too expensive. There's a cost factor. The economics behind it doesn't merit it. And yet, COVID doesn't seem to matter. And oddly enough, the CDC, while you were away, and I don't know if you heard this, announced that monkeypox is now a worldwide threat, and the media doesn't take it at all, doesn't run with it at all. And so I'm asking myself here, as we get closer to, as you said, to an election, you know, you're hearing, is Mr. Biden begging the media to not talk about COVID and his failure at helping Americans get over COVID? It's the same thing happening in Canada. There's talk of a snap election this fall here. We have an election in Quebec in this October where we were the most stringent rules, shutdowns, curfews, more than anybody else in U.S. and
Hey,
Canada.
hey, whoa, 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 whoa. Remember, COVID doesn't get transmitted after before 8 o'clock at night.
Well, that's what apparently what if you ask the government here, absolutely. So the crazy thing is, I'm asking myself, Stuart, and I mean you're a smart guy.
Thank you.
Is it political? We talked about this isn't about regular science, this is about political science. So what did we learn from all this experience?
Hmm.
Who can we
Can I tell you
trust?
one thing that I learned?
Sure.
Fake news is real.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. You don't have to be a right wing conservative to say fake news is real. It's all narrative based. What did we learn? That the media is narrative based. That unless you find the numbers, you're just listening to editorial. Monkeypox, is part of is a in the same family of smallpox, right? It's a serious matter. If you want to put fear in a population, let's talk about Ebola. Let's talk about the Dustin Hoffman type Ebola virus outbreaks, right, from a movie theater. There is so much to be fearful of. But again, why does the media focus on, it seems like, more election campaign type
Well,
stuff than the facts? Like,
isn't it
again,
comical? Isn't it comical how we used to have on the screen all the statistics? Every time you turned on CNN or Fox or whatever, it was number of cases, hospitalizations, deaths, blah blah blah. It was like a whole
What would
big.
you call that? Sensationalism?
I have no idea what to call that. It was. That's exactly what it was. It was just about. Look, at the end of the day, what does the media want? Your eyes, your
Dollars. No, it
ears.
wants dollars. It
No,
wants
because
dollars.
no, but that's what it does. No, that's exactly it. It translates into dollars because the more eyes you have on your show, the more you can sell. But we've seen scandalosias, but in all over the place. Guys are playing around, right? Our governor brothers from New York, look, how they got screwed. Nobody talks about that. Did you notice that?
Yep.
Nobody talks about that scandal in New York anymore. Nobody talks about the fact that Governor Newsom went out there time and time again without a mask, doing whatever he wants, went to restaurants. How about Nancy Pelosi going to the
Oh,
hairdresser?
there we go. She needs a hair color done.
Well, you were away. I was like ripping on her husband, and his stock
Oh,
purchase. But
the
Nancy
drunk.
Pelosi, but Nancy Pelosi had no problem going to a hairdresser in the middle of COVID when everybody had to stay home. The
You know,
hypocrisy.
yeah, but Nancy Pelosi doesn't think she's accountable to the people. When she was asked about her finances, I don't have to talk to you about that. Walked away.
Look,
That
Stuart.
woman went into politics broke, not broke, but near broke, and she's going, and her husband is making what's called legal insider trading.
Okay, we
Here's
went
a
through
good
this.
one.
We went through this in another rant. Let's
Oh,
talk about COVID because you want to
yeah.
know what? How much did she benefit from COVID? What stocks did anybody take a look and see what stocks people bought,
You know,
prior
we should do
to and
a deep dive on Amar, AOC, and Pelosi. I think we should do a
uh,
pod. I think we should do
well,
a thing on what they bought and
well,
how much
I don't know
money
if
their bank accounts grew.
I don't know I know how much their bank. You can tell how much their net worth is, but I don't know if you can see that. But my issue with this whole thing is how the lovely media. It went both ways. I mean, you look at Fox News and you hear what they've done, and they ripped apart Biden's policies and whatever. And you saw what the left wing media did to Trump when he was running and whatever. And while you were away, Mr. Biden got COVID, Stuart, and the White House refused to answer questions about where they thought he might have gotten COVID and all this stuff. So the hypocrisy, and I ranted about this last Friday. It's this hypocrisy of like, you know what? I can criticize the crap out of you, but when it comes to me, don't talk about me. And Justin Trudeau is a great example of that. I will tell you and dictate to you how to run your lives when it comes to COVID, but don't tell me how to do it because I will do it whatever I want, however I want, whenever I want. And this is become the norm. Okay. Politicians were told don't travel during COVID. It's really bad sign. They traveled anyways. And the
Yeah,
media,
but they're also trying to now deflect from COVID. Now they're trying to, for this whole election thing, and now they're talking about abortion things.
well, of
You know,
course they are, but they're also still focusing on the anti-vaxxers. They're still trying to go. We're like I said, we have an election here in October, and there's a
yep,
new party emerging in Quebec, this conservative party, and two of their candidates were thrown out because of conspiracy theories, and they're anti-vaxxers. Like all of a sudden, if you say you're an anti-vaxxer, you're a racist, you're a heretic, you're something. Look what COVID has created this terminology that is complete bullshit. That is completely, like, oh, if you're an anti-vaxxer, you must be wrong and must be something, sick in the head.
censored.
It's not fact. Yeah, look, we've been censored because we question the science. We
Yep.
question what the policy, the policies that are put out there. We are
Where
censored.
are all these doctors that were stating their medical careers?
Stuart,
You know a
I know
few of
one.
them.
I know one personally, and I met him in his family, and he's running around with N95 masks still, and he's very scared and whatever. And and I don't have the heart to go up to him and saying why, because that's what he believes in, and I'm not going to change him, and I'm not going to change his family. And his kid went to camp, and his kid got unfortunately did get COVID, and unfortunately for them, it was a sucky situation where the camp didn't test. Remember, all these summers, kids were tested, and the kids weren't tested. Whatever, we're giving up. COVID fatigue has given people the burns, and on that note, we're done.
Did that 15 minutes roll by?
That 15 minutes. Do you remember what 15 minutes was really all about?
Oh boy. Quarter hour, baby.
Quarter hour, baby.
Welcome.
Hey, listen.
It's good to be back. Thanks for the welcome back, David. I guess I'll
Hey,
see you on Friday.
Stuart, we're going to do this again on Friday. And let's, folks, again, as you heard from previous rants, look, it's the summer and no people are quiet, people are traveling, but spread the word. More and more people are finding out about the Rant Network and loving what we're talking about here because we are still diving into topics that people are petrified to talk about. We're not. Share the love. Have a wonderful day.